We're going to be talking about data analysis. Qualtrics crosstab. I created a survey that they all took. We had like 40 responses, and there's a pivot table on it. Talk about a project. Okay. For the semester.
We're solving that.
Coolio. Okay. You want to get started? You want to wait 1 minute? Wait. This is cool. Yeah, before crazy. Crazy.
That's some real.
Tell me that great was
Short.
But you believe me?
No, good idea. Well, it's close.
Okay. So I think we'll get started. Welcome, everybody. I know it's crazy, but it is totally week 4 right now. So that's at least I feel like that's pretty crazy. I don't know. Maybe you guys are like not feeling that. So like we start every week. Successes. Anybody had any successes that was really cool that your team was able to achieve or overcome? Hurdle. I'm just gonna call on a random group that I see. So be ready. Okay. Museum of Clean. Any successes so far? Where are you guys at, like, in your project?
Well, we have the research plan done. Went down and saw the museum.
Cool. Can you give us like a brief overview of what they want?
That will take a while. So their system is very large and their expectations are pretty high. So they, all in all, they want the museum to become sustainable and focused. And so we're just trying to find the best ways for us to do that for them.
Cool. Sure. Let's have Nick. Do you want to talk about what he asked you to talk about earlier?
Sure.
Do you want to come up to the front? Yeah, that way we can all see your pretty face. So Nick had a lot of success with making phone calls for the Gary White project. He's a great example of just somebody who can get information from their initial contact. Like he's got, what's like your success rate right now?
Right now,
Out of all the people you call, is it like 80%?
I think I called maybe 9 people and 7 of them gave me all the information I needed. So
Cool. Do you want to just give us like an overview of what you said, what information you're trying
yeah, I mean, I guess it was a half fib, I guess, like a half lie in a sense. I just first call out of the gate, I called the guy and I said, hey, I'm a student up at BYU Idaho. I'm doing a case study for this entrepreneurial class on campus, and they asked me to take a look at these storage units and do some analysis on the demand and saturation in Idaho Falls, and so I just went right into my questions after that. I was like, so do you guys do you guys know like exactly like percentage wise how full you guys are, or like an occupancy rate? And they're like, oh yeah, there's like maybe 80% full. And then the first guy was just like, oh yeah, I'm like 70% full. And then he just started going. I hardly had to talk. Like he just started giving me all this information, not just about himself, but like about like the saturation in general of storage units, and all the information about competitors and people that he thinks I would get good information from. Like he said, competition is pretty friendly as far as storage units go. And I inquired about maybe any break-ins or vandalism they saw at storage units. And he said, no, we don't really see it. But if you're looking into apartment complexes, and I can tell you that I think it was almost weekly somebody got their windshield smashed in, and my car got stolen when I was managing apartment complexes. So I said there's a little more risk for crime rates and losing money that way. But he just started going, and I don't know. I haven't called the rest of the people on the list, and we're going to work on that. But we did get some pretty good information, and we learned that kind of during the winter times, people stick around maybe 90% full so far, and it actually increases in the summer. So a lot of really nice information came from that. But I think what helped people make a more comfortable decision. I think I had one lady put me on hold to ask her boss if it was okay to answer questions, but she was pretty quick to respond after that.
Cool. Yeah, it's good that you didn't really fit because you are a BYU Idaho student. This
And
is
remember a case study, and
project.
this is a entrepreneurial class.
And this is an entrepreneur center, so that's what we do. So
Give Nick a hand, everyone.
Okay. His matrix looks really nice too, like for his calls. He's able to answer the same questions for all of his, for all the different storage units that he calls. All right, so next, Will, you want to come up? Sure. Do you have a mouse up here? A mouse up here?
Yeah. No, okay, I'll just bring
There's a mouse that's hooked up to the computer, and I don't want to go and try to find the thing in the JK. I'm just going to share the screen. So, okay, that everybody can see online. All right. So yeah. Can you talk a little bit about Trello and how he's using it in his groups? Okay. Where is? So do you want to go to the other Trello board?
Yeah, let's go to the other. So they asked me to talk about Trello because we kind of figured out a good way to use it. So the thing you have to understand about Trello is that it's a workflow tool. I don't know how many of you have worked with workflows before. I kind of have, before I used to work in IT and I got some experience there with building workflows. And basically a workflow is saying we're going to start here with what we're trying to do, and here's the set of steps we have to travel through to get it to its completed state. Every single thing we need to do, we're going to do this and this and this and this, and here, and this is where it is. And so you have a set of states where things belong. And so I said, okay, I know this is a workflow thing, so why don't we just look at how other companies have used Trello effectively. And in fact, there are people who are managing customer service software for like Microsoft or other large companies. They build the software and they use Trello as their project management tool. And so what you have to do is figure out your workflow. What are the steps we need to take with every single task that we have to do that will get us to where we're going? And we just found a very simple solution with both of my teams. They're slightly different. We were using what's called an agile method in software development, where you do it's called a sprint. So every single week, we take a meeting, we have a meeting, and we say, these are the things we're going to do this week. And so we've created, so this is where we're going to come over here. So we've created these different lists that represent different stages in what we're doing. So we have this pool, and the way the pool is working is that's where we build all our tasks and say, we're going to do this and this and this. And we just leave them there until we're ready to work on them. But so if you notice, we have some things set up. Some of those we're going to be doing this week, some we won't. But as we get those, we'll add those. We'll move, once we build the tasks, we do some stuff with it. And this is, you've kind of got to do stuff with this. So you need to come in here and you add a description to your task. So we classified them, so we gave a general description. Okay, this is for the student survey portion of our thing. We're going to improve the test survey. Give a description. We added members, so we assigned people to this task and said, okay, you're going to be helping with this. You can do it at this stage or not, it depends. But we chose that for this specific task, we would add everybody from the beginning. Other things, we added a due date. We came in and put a due date, and that's really helpful. Other things you can do, you can add power-ups. They integrate with other things. So we did integrations with Google Drive. So an example of where that's useful, this is something we have it due today at 12. We're going to be going over what we've done so far. But we have this link, and so we can sit here and keep the document in Google Drive. So that way we always have one place to work on it. We have one source of truth. So when we pull the data, we've got one place to pull it from. But when we go looking for it, it's easy to find because it's associated with the task that we built. So we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Other things is you can copy things, add them. You can add checklists. So sometimes we'll say, okay, we need to do this and this and this to get this task done. But every week, so going back to the workflow, every single week, we meet up and we say, these are the things we're going to do. And we add those to our next up list. And so we see every single time we're working on this, we can say, okay, these are the things we need to get done this week. Then we move it over into, as soon as someone starts working on it, if it's not claimed, they add themselves as a member, so we see who's responsible. And we move it over into the working tab. So if you notice, I've got a couple of things that I'm working on. In fact, some of them are overdue because I haven't been able to get it done yet. But as soon as we're done with it, we move it over into the complete. As soon as it's done, we mark it complete and move it over. And then we know it's done. So that we're keeping an eye on it. And you could just do like a stuff to do, stuff we're working on, and stuff that's done. But we decided to add this step of next step for a very important reason. A lot of the companies that I read about in their use of Trello, they run into this issue where they get this shifting sand dune of stuff. So as you come up with ideas, you just add them to the list of stuff you need to do. You can't really see what you're trying to do. That's why we added this next step, so that we have a space to say, this is our goal for this week. And so that's just one of the things we added. And talking about customizing this to your workflow, can you swap it over to the other tab?
Yeah.
I got access to all. Okay, that helps. Okay, sweet. So in this one, we added a second we added a final column called reviewed. So part of what we have to do is in our Hitachi project is a lot of, we have a lot of documentation to write, which means we need to go through and review that. So we added this final stage where after it's completed, someone else can come through and look at it and say, yes, it's done, it's complete. It actually is meeting the needs, specs of the task, and we can move it over to reviewed. Just say, yep, we don't even have to go back and look at it again. So what questions do you guys have about this? No? Okay.
All right, cool. So we thought that'd be helpful to see how they're using Trello. Trello's a really good resource to try to use it and kind of fit it to meet the needs of your project. So feel free to add things, take things away, to kind of make it work. So next is we have the schedule, the calendar that we live and breathe by. Today, this week is research. Hopefully have a data day with your project manager and Will. Who's already had their data day? You guys have had it with you guys yesterday. Who doesn't have a data day scheduled yet? You guys? Okay, so.
Well, we scheduled one and then we'll schedule something over it. So.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. Just keep trying.
Yeah.
So, like Will has a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we don't see. He's really, really busy. So, we know it's a pain, but if you guys could just be flexible.
So yeah, try to schedule another one. Try to do it this week. Will might talk about the data, might talk strategy, might talk different things, give you ideas that's going to help the data collection go forwards. By next week, the hope is to have half the data done. So kind of a good checkpoint is if you're doing surveys going out this week is probably pretty good status, or by latest, like by the end of next week. Because the thing about surveys is it take a long time to administer and then get back. So it's like wait at least a week just in terms of like waiting for the results to come in. So just be mindful of that if you are doing surveys. So that's the timeline. Any questions on timeline or stuff like that? No? Okay. So, feel free to use this space. We'd like to see teams in here. Be able to get questions resolved, talk to any of the project managers if you want. So please use this space. There's also this space down here in the corner, which you guys can use if you want a little more quiet, personal space, time. So we can't require it, but we highly encourage you to come to the office as often as you're able to. We would also like just to remind to try not using laptops or phones during trainings, unless we're going to use it like today. So today you're fine to have your laptops out because we are going to be doing data analysis today, which is going to be awesome. So who took the survey? Yeah, I put it out a couple times on the Slack page. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal. It was just to have some fun data. I don't care about your political affiliation or anything like that. What I kind of wanted to go over were two kind of ways to analyze data. One of them people generally don't know of. The second, I think, who here's taken B215 before? So like half of you guys. So B215 is like the business Excel class. And they go over a little bit about pivot tables. We're going to do a little bit about pivot tables today. And we're going to show you guys also Qualtrics Crosstab. Has anybody used Qualtrics Crosstab before? Just talking too quickly. So it's a really good way. It's not as intensive or extensive or as fancy as Qualtrics, as Excel Crosstab. Why am I talking all? I'm just so sorry, man. I just didn't sleep enough last night. Went to bed too late. But it's a good way to kind of get some really quick analysis done that's more in depth than your standard average or count type of figures. Qualtrics, if you're doing a survey, does give you these reports. And often interns have a tendency to look at the reports and then just use all that data on the reports. And they're good, but they're just very low-level, basic types of information. Like here we have a count of gender, and we got favorite color, but just based on counts. That is somewhat valuable and useful for the client to know. You know, say the client wanted to know what the favorite color was. That's useful to know that blue is the favorite color, but it's not super valuable. What's much more valuable is to pair that up with something other type of variable. So like males like blue more than females. So not only do we know that blue is the most liked color, but we also know it based off of some type of gender. So how to do that? An easy way to do that, if you're doing a Qualtrics survey, I don't know why the internet's so slow, man. Okay, is you can click this cross tab, and you can create a new cross tabulation. And it's super easy. The one downside of Qualtrics crosstab is it doesn't have all of, you can't crosstab all the questions. So it only allows you to do a crosstab for multiple choice questions, matrix questions, and embedded data, which I don't know what that is. But see, like a couple of these questions, as you guys noticed, with scales. So it's like, you know, rate your satisfaction of your major, I think was a question. It was on a scale. So Qualtrics doesn't know how to analyze that data. It won't give you anything. But if you're doing mostly multiple choice, you're able to just very easily pick your row. So let's say I want my column to be gender. I want color to be row. I can press create crosstab. And very quickly, I have here a little table created. Is everybody able to see that? Should I make it bigger? I'll make it a little bigger. You very quickly have a table created. You can also go up here into data options and add row percentages as well as add column percentages. So now you can very easily see how much, so color, the answer that they chose for color based off of the answer for male and female, what was the gender. So here we can see that males, blue was chosen as the highest response to favorite color. As well, within genders, we see that blue was higher than female, so maybe we see that males like blue more than females. But what's a really important thing to understand whenever you're looking at genders in survey data, because it can skew survey data really easily, and it's well depicted here. So what might be like a red herring? A red herring, is that the phrase? Yeah.
So if you look at the bottom, the proportion of male-female responses was pretty big.
Yeah, so here we say there's almost 3 times more votes that males gave for blue than females. We also see that there's another 10 of 9 males than females. So males do still like blue more than females on average, but it's not as high as originally thought because there's actually more males than females. So if it was, say, let's just say for easy numbers, there's 10 females and then 20 males. Well, you would expect more males to choose blue as the correct response. We had a whole project last semester that Jordan was on, and the junior analyst did this type of analysis for every single question. Because it's valuable. It's valuable to know, okay, males, less from 20 to 30 is your target range. They always said that they were twice as likely to buy your product. That's really valuable data. But if you look at it just on the account basis, it can really skew your data because she just had a lot more females answer the survey. For some reason, she had twice the survey responses for females than males. So every response, no matter what it said, was the females were the most likely to buy the product. Well, it's just because you counted. So based a lot of things off of percentages, if it's statistically relevant. So if you only have like 10 responses, don't. But if you have like 30, 50 responses, use percentages and do the populations of a percentage of that population.
Does that make sense, guys? And it will you'll have to spend some extra time doing it, but it's better to do it then instead of bringing it to us and then having you go back and redo it.
Yeah, so we see that there's about 3 times more males like blue than females on a count basis, but when we look at it on a percentage basis, based off the population, it's only twice the amount of males than females like the color blue, because we're now at 60 to 31%. So there's double the amount of males. So it's still good. Males still like blue more than females in our, of our interns, but not as much. 2 times rather than 3 times, which is really important. That if you extrapolate that out to a whole business decision, selling, tens of thousands of products, that is like crazy dollar values that we're talking about. Yeah.
So why is it 2 times instead of 3 times?
Because 31% of the female population chose blue as a favorite color, and 60% of the male population chose blue as their favorite color. So twice the population percentage group chose for males rather than females. So, hopefully I'm not misspeaking. Yeah. And overall, almost 50% of the population said that blue is their favorite color, which is so stereotypical. Everybody just likes blue. So this is a really good tool to try to use. What's also really cool is you can do something that's a lot more difficult to do in Excel. You can add filters. So I can filter based off another question. So I can say stress. So let's see if favorite color affects stress, or if they're if they're related. So this question was between a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being most stressed. So let's say greater than or equal to, so people who responded that they had a stress level of 4 or higher. I can now calculate. And now I only have people who responded, so I filtered everybody else out who is not stressed. So I only have stressed people, and so I got a total of 15 stressed individuals. And I can look to see if there's any type of differentiation between those stressed and those not stressed. It's not valuable in this situation, but it very well could be valuable. For a project that I was helping with last semester was BYU Idaho, and they had this experience that they wanted to quantify. And the experience was students who went through this course that they met with a teacher on a weekly basis, and they did this research project outside of class, and they had to count some certain amount of credits. So we had a bunch of criteria. What we did is we filtered for that criteria and then ran a bunch of analysis with that filtering. So you're able to add a bunch of new questions to this, to this cross-tab page, all with that same filtering. So you don't have to repeat that filtering. So you can filter 20 questions for only people under the age of 15, or people only, really old people. So this is kind of very helpful to do some really rustic, quick analysis that's fairly valuable. Valuable? Valuable? Not valuable, that's the word. It sounded weird when I said it.
We have that question.
Well,
Yeah.
So this type of analysis, sometimes you're feeling you might have very few, or you might have a lot of answers. There are actually statistical tests you can perform to figure out whether this is just because you only have a few responses and it just kind of happened, or if it's possibly a statistically valid result. Forgetting the name of what specific test. I forget my statistics class. I think it's a chi-square test. Yeah, so here we have a chi-square that it automatically generates for us, as long as well with a p-value and degrees of freedom. So for those stats people out there, it kind of auto-generates that stuff with you. Do we have any statisticians in here? Statistics people? Yeah, so is it a chi-square that does that? I don't know. It is? Okay. I took my stats class and then forgot everything shortly after. So this is really useful. I would like to get you guys in on it, but I have to share with all of you, and that's just too much effort on my part. So try creating it, play around with it.
use it. It's just another resource that sometimes people just overlook and they just aren't aware of it. So hopefully you guys are now aware of it. Any questions on the capabilities of Qualtrics Crosstab? No. They also have some text features so you can bin data straight into this, into Qualtrics. If you have like a comment section and you want to do like positive or negative binning of it, you kind of get the sentiment of the comments, you can do that here. It's going to analyze it and take forever, so I'm not going to wait for it. But Qualtrics has some cool features that can be done internally.
You're gonna be tempted to like copy and paste the graphs too. Like, don't do that. Let's say don't do that. I would export it into Excel and make all of your graphs consistent, and that'll save you hours of time. Like, please do that.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone's on the same page with format and just make sure it's all in the same place.
Yeah, and we're going to be training on that. Either next week or the week after that, we're going to have a data visualization training. Yeah.
You mentioned that it works better for multiple choice questions, the data filtering and whatnot.
Yeah.
Does it work at all for if it's just like filling in the answer, like for our project with construction, like if they input just the value, like does it quantify all those values?
Yeah, no, it's just you won't be able to do that type of analysis inside of Qualtrics. It will be confused by, it needs standardized things. But that type of analysis can be done within Excel. So once you've done a survey in Qualtrics, you can go to data and analysis and then press export, and you can export it as a CSV. Once you have that CSV, you download it, open it up in Excel, and save it as an Excel file. That way you keep all your formatting. So did everybody see that file I uploaded, I think, last night in the training channel? It might have been the general channel. It was an Excel file. All of you guys can grab that, download it, and open it up. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about that right now. Hopefully everybody knows how to you do general Excel type features. If not, we're kind of going to walk through.
If you need help, just raise your hand out from mine.
Yeah. So Qualtrics data is super, super ugly when it comes downloaded. So spend some time and clean it up. So I included multiple tabs in that sheet that was uploaded to kind of show you guys some processes to help clean up that data, just because it is so ugly. This is what gets exported in the CSV file for you guys, which is cool. I have IP addresses of people, people's latitude and longitude, kind of creepy stuff. How long it took them to take the survey. So what I would highly encourage is when you get that data and you download it, clean it up. So here I've done kind of I've expanded it so you guys can kind of see all the data that they have. I cleaned it up, resized some columns, took out columns that were pointless, like this column right here. You don't need that. It's Qualtrics gibberish that who knows why they give it to us. In this situation, I deleted some of those, like latitude and longitude, because I don't care about where you guys took the survey from. Generally speaking, it's best to not delete rows that might become valuable in the future. I just did it purely for aesthetic reasons. So some weird things about Qualtrics, just to kind of note about. In that, I had a question in the survey that asked what your major was. It gave another option. Other options are really good because some of you guys are poli-sci and other things. It spits that into another column. It puts other here, and then whatever you put in that next box. It's an annoying thing that Qualtrics does. I wish it didn't do. I wish it just put this into this column. So it means that when you do when you want to do an analysis on this data, you're gonna have to make sure all of the input stuff that they put in is formatted the same, or it's called the same. Here we have a poli-sci and a political science, same thing. So you need to go through all the responses and uniform it, and probably merge it into one column, so you could then do a count if on it, see how many there are of each major, or the distribution of it. So it makes your life a little bit easier, a little bit hard, just what Qualtrics does. This is also an annoying thing that Qualtrics does. So if you guys remember, there was a question that was asking about foods that you liked, and it wanted you to group the foods as well as rank the foods, which means that it creates this awful list of comma delimited items for the groups of foods that you like, as well as for the groups of foods that you don't like, and then separately ranks them all individually. And it is awful to analyze this data. So test with Qualtrics a little bit beforehand, before you maybe choose what questions you want to ask, because the data that it spits out is sometimes very ugly. Ranking questions are very ugly. And they're hard to analyze, and they're tough to come up with a good graph for it. So that's just kind of, I did that question on purpose just to kind of show you guys how that spits out. It is analyzable, and it's good, valuable data. It just takes some extra time, so I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that.
The client might want this too, so it's good to have like a dashboard with a summary of all the data. Okay, so just try and clean it up as you go, because you'll probably be giving something like this to your client. They'll probably want something additional.
Yeah, and then our last two questions. The ranking questions, those are pretty easy. They just give you a straight number. I like quantifiable stuff a lot. Okay, so in Excel, you guys can do a very similar type of simple analysis. Like this is just a count if. So I'm doing a count if for that range. I'm gonna have it highlight. If it says male, I know all the responses are either male or female because there was just a a radio button. They had an option of one or the other. So this is a very easy analysis. It's very surface level, top of the iceberg, kind of valuable. Here we have an average function done, just a simple average. So do those analysis because they're good, but try to go the extra step. And I'm calling complex data. That should be complex data analysis. I just didn't type analysis. So pivot tables. I can't see it. I hate this bar so much.
Does anybody have any questions so far? I know it's a lot. Like you kind of just have to get dirty and jump into it once you get all your data in Excel. Nobody has any questions?
Go to insert.
It's an insert. Thank you so much, man. So here I'm going to insert. So I'm just going to walk through the very basic, same one we did in Qualtrics. This the exact same question as was on Qualtrics, which I need stress. So Excel pivot tables are very similar to how you set it up in a crosstab inside of Qualtrics. Just a little bit different. So I'm going to choose the gender. I made that on the column, right? So put that there. And we did stress level, right? So I have my column is going to be gender. My stress is going to be on the y-axis, and I have to pick a count. So that gives me a count. So I'm going to just choose those who responded to gender. It's going to give me a count of. And there I very quickly, and what's nice about Excel is it creates little graphs for you right there. But this table is what's most important. That's probably what you care about the most. What's interesting is that in Excel, it's going to count blanks. So it kind of displays this blank. You can delete that or ignore that. Blanks don't really add value. It's kind of there. So this is an example, really quick, easy, of how to use pivot tables or pivot tables and pivot charts in Excel. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, there's some other things that you can do. So say I didn't want to do this. I don't want to do by gender, and I want to do by stress level. This is kind of odd that I would do it. It's gonna give me the same type of data, but it's giving me the sum of stress right here, because stress was a number, so Excel automatically wants to sum it. The other one was in words, it was either female or it was male, so Excel knew, counted. So how you change that, just go to field value and just change it to count and back. Does that make sense? Okay. So, do you have a question or comment?
How do you filter out the blanks?
How do you filter out the blanks? Click right here. No blanks. And sometimes, now Excel knows to order these. Sometimes they'll be like words. They might be, like, I like it a little, I like it a lot, don't like it. And then to reorder them, you just right click it, and then you can move up or down. So, because you'll want everything sorted, and we'll talk about this next week's training with data visualization. You want to be like from least to most in terms of like the bars. Okay, so now what I'd like you guys to do is I went over a quick example. I'd like you to either break up in teams or work individually, however you want, and create like at least 2 pivot tables using that data, and try to come up with some type of cool, fun fact or interesting thing. And then we have like a little competition at the end. I'll give you like 5 or 10 minutes to do this and see who can come up with the coolest correlation. Like people who are male who like blue are also Democrat. And you're like, oh, blue Democrats, they like the color blue, so the Democrat, So something cool like that, okay? If there's nothing, we'll see. I found some cool things, so we'll see if.
Does anyone need help with?
Yeah, you're welcome to ask us for help.
Who doesn't know where to start?
Talk to roommates for help. So, and if you don't have that data yet, it's in Slack. So you should be able to go into Slack and hop in there and download that data. So it might be uncomfortable at first. That's okay. Just try to get comfortable with it. And for online people, I'll just pop it open and try to play around with the data inside of Excel. If you have anything exciting to show us, just speak up. You just unmute yourself, okay? I guess online people, do you have any questions for us, or was that? I'm having a bad job with my nouns today and my words in general. I'm like, I need 8 hours of sleep. I only got 7 last night, so that's my big issue.
Does anyone online need help?
I asked.
I'm okay.
No, okay. At least Brennan's again. See, like, you're inside testing now, playing with it. It's kind of from the States that I'll go back. Yeah, I'll be back.
At 60 seconds, and so I did Emerson plugins at 60 seconds. So I had like I didn't know. Yeah. There's a lax in distance. So that's all the things. There was like major.
Please smile. Look at his left.
Brendan, you're a superstar, man. Look at those pearly whites.
So how you guys doing? Like another minute or two, or are people feeling pretty good?
Crucial analysis.
Will, I don't have it. You have uploaded the file. Yeah, sure. Did you want to do it before or after they talk about the pivot tables?
So,
There's a large group of men that are just not satisfied with their major. It's surprising that that's big enough. Okay, so hopefully was that enough time for people to like at least play around with the data a little bit? Yeah.
The satisfaction scale of value is 8 to 10.
Okay. All right, so let's go regroup. Hopefully that was enough time. So this is like another example of why it's so important to use percentages and look at the total population of the respondents taking the survey. So here we see that it looks like neck and neck. Males are about as satisfied as females are, and then it looks like males are more satisfied than females for number 4. So like their level of satisfaction is a little bit higher for that category. But when we look at the data and we show values as a percent of the column total, we now see that actually females are more satisfied. There's more percentage. The percentage of females satisfied at a level 3 is higher than the percentage of females satisfied at a level 3 for males. Same thing for 4 and for 5. So just make sure you're always looking at what's the population that you're actually analyzing that question. And often the population will change question for question because people don't always respond. So anybody come up with something cool that they want to share? Something cool or interesting or any type of failure, just an epic failure, just nothing came out of the data, valueless. Yeah.
I have a question. So the ranking of the satisfaction 1 to 5, there's like 4 responses that are above 5.
Which data did you use?
The one from the spreadsheet you give us.
Did you use the simple analysis? Use the simple analysis tab.
But why not use the survey responses?
So I messed up the survey and I messed up my range. I made one 10, I made the other 2 5, which was going to make your data analysis hard. So I went back and 3 people took the survey and I didn't delete the responses. I changed them to better fit the survey scale.
You just cut it in half. It's not like you named it.
Yeah, I just cut it in half. So sorry about that. Yeah. That was my bad. I spent like 5 minutes on the survey, so there were some spelling mistakes that I caught afterwards. But so anybody, if not, I'm just gonna like call on some people. Any experiences from doing this and working in the ULO groups? Yeah.
So I tried to do like choices manager with the stress level, and I thought it was interesting that like business management with entrepreneurial emphasis was markedly higher. It was over a 4 average compared to no one else at above 3.
No one else had above 3. So the entrepreneur emphasis, the business degree, those people are just very satisfied.
No, it's stress.
Oh, stressed. They're very stressed.
They're more stressed.
Oh, interesting. So if you don't want to be stressed, don't go into that emphasis. See, that's valuable data. That's interesting. They must be concerned about the future. Like, can I start up a business? Will I just lose all my money? It could be stressing. Anybody else have some type of cool little tidbit like that they learned? Griffin, I feel like you wanted to say something.
Oh, no, I'm thinking.
You're thinking? What, do you want to think out loud?
I'm just doing by major, what percentage of males and females of the total like seafood.
Okay.
And so I found that 17% of males in the finance, so total males, 67% like seafood. And of that, 17% of finance majors make up that.
Interesting.
So, whereas like the next highest is marketing, and then usually it's around 2%, 8%.
So all these guys want to work, who want to work on Wall Street, they, like seafood. Yeah, I guess it makes sense. Okay, interesting. So hopefully this was a useful activity. You guys are welcome to play that data, mess it up, destroy it, so then you can learn from it and then not mess up your old data. We're doing this training this semester because last semester we had this awful experience that Will's going to talk about. Do you want to just?
Yeah, you have that file for like the cleaned up version of it for any of that file at all?
For the BYU Idaho project? I have it all in Qualtrics. I did all in Qualtrics.
Oh. Well, so here's a kind of a horror story for you. Yeah, pull it up. So here's a kind of a horror story for you, and we felt bad about this because it's like maybe it was our fault for not training or opening eyes to kind of the possibilities of how to analyze these data sets. And this data set we were looking at, it wasn't, I mean, it had like 900 responses or 700 responses.
800 and something. 831.
831. So imagine you've got a survey that got sent out and there's 831 responses. So in the spreadsheet, there's every row is a response. And then every column is how they responded to a different question, right? So there's probably 15 questions that got responded to. And as we, one of the interns that was working on this project spent the whole weekend analyzing the data. We were excited to see it. And we sat down to see the data, and we're there actually with the client, right?
No, it was with the client. Luckily, it was just us. Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, it was David and I couldn't remember for times there. Anyways, we pull up the spreadsheet, and every row is a different color, like across the whole, all of the questions. And we're like, huh, it's weird. There must have been like some conditional formatting that got used or something. No, that was the analysis.
That's our time she had it in the row, guys.
Your response is exactly like ours was. We were just like stunned. We're like quiet, sitting there like, what do you mean? Like, so there was one question that was analyzed and just colored, like added a color based on how they answered that question 900 times. So it's literally probably like 9 or 10 hours worth of work.
Oh, she said she spent 20 hours on it.
20 hours?
Yeah.
And really all there was just like, we could have just done and actually David did, he grabbed the spreadsheet in about 11 seconds, had a pivot table created that actually meant something. And I asked back to the interns, like, so did you count these or like analyze like how many times this answer happened this way that you colored green? Like how many green rows are there? Like trying to figure out if there was further analysis besides color coding. There wasn't. So there's no way to like add any value after 20 hours. So don't do that. Like if you're just like, man, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way to analyze this stuff to bring value to the client. Talk to us, right? We'd love to help you. Google, like there's so many different little YouTube channels out there devoted to creating pivot tables and pivot charts and things like that.
Yeah.
Way more stuff than we trained on today. But anyways.
Yeah, and so what I ended up doing was creating 2 pages, or two cross tabs, because the client wanted to know everybody, and they wanted to know 2 segments of that group. You want to know people who spent over 5 hours a week, people who spent less than 5 hours a week. So the great thing about Qualtrics is I was able to easily filter. So this is everybody, and then this is duration. So they're hours. They spent over 5 hours, or less than 5 hours. And this would be actually kind of difficult to do in Excel, so it's kind of cool that Qualtrics does it, is I have all this logic. So if they meet this criteria, and if they meet this criteria, and if this criteria, for every single question. And this took about 30 minutes, just because I had clicked lots of boxes and I had to teach myself. So it's teaching myself and clicking in the boxes for like 30 or 40 minutes. The longest part was actually to transpose it into Excel because you couldn't just copy and paste it. Super easy, quick, very valuable, exactly what the client wanted. I just took these percentages and then that, and then put it into a graph. It's fantastic. Didn't spend 20 hours on it. So save yourself time. We don't want you to waste time.
And right now, you guys are in the middle of probably, how many of you are distributing a survey of some sort? Quite a few of you. You're kind of in the middle of getting those surveys out right about now. We're ready to piloting it. And this is a great time to be thinking about, you have to begin with the end in mind as you're starting to distribute those. And you have to start thinking about, I need to make sure I'm asking questions in a way so that I can do this kind of cross-tabulation at the end of the day to really bring value to the analysis. And if your questions aren't set up that way, if they're not, created in a way where you can cross-tabulate results, then you might want to rethink things just a little bit. But for heaven's sake, pilot something before you send it out to the mass audiences, because once you've kind of burned the field, it's hard to harvest it again, So anyways,
Pilot with small group
small,
to go to mass audience.
5, 10 people, something like that. Your friends, your mom, I don't care.
Yeah. The data that they get could be totally junk. Doesn't matter what data they get, as long as you can get this result. Julio?
Do you guys have any questions at all? What else do you have?
That is it for today's workshop that we have scheduled.
What issues are you having right now that we can help you out with, or heartache or anything? You like a hug or something? Maybe one of those?
I'm not a hugger. I'm not actually a big fan of like physical contact. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Fist bump or something like that. How you doing? How are things going? Yeah.
One thing we've been experiencing in one of my groups is that the scope changes every week.
Yeah, you're
So
lobster fine, right?
it's kind of like,
Yep.
it's kind of interesting to know what kind of data really, never has to compile it.
Yeah, that's good practice for you to learn how to like wrangle in that client and prevent scope creep. And a great way to do that is just mirroring back and just saying, okay, last week you asked us to do this, now you're asking us to do that. And we're kind of concerned that we may not be able to do both things. So can you help us decide which one is most important? Those kinds of things. Yeah, lots of important. Yeah. Which is funny because Bob's the founder of the MDC. And he sat through more projects than I have.
But the funny thing is that it's not him who's changing this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's still good practice for you. We're pulling for you. What else? Client meetings going okay? Have you learned anything so far about scheduling client meetings or interacting with clients that you want to share with anybody else around here? You learning how to use the calendar?
Yes.
Yeah? See, it's always pretty important to use that. Keep it up. You guys got through the hardest part. So now you kind of are experts in the calendaring system. Just make sure, you're kind of including the clients on those calendar invites. I noticed there's quite a few that don't have the client, including on the invites. In the description of the meeting, it'd be helpful to us if it's like a day-to-day that you're scheduling, to look over data, put your team name, like the project name, along with the fact that it's a day-to-day. And that'll help us prepare for that meeting without kind of forensically figure out which project are we talking about. Because sometimes we'll do kind of a little bit of a review of things leading up to that meeting to help us make it effective. And it just helps us out a lot if we have to do this. And that goes for all the client meetings and everything. All right, I don't have anything else unless you do. Nope. Keep up the good work. Should be getting some data in pretty soon if you haven't already. So it's exciting times. There we go. See you guys. Voting today? What? Primary? I know it's primary.